The deadliest tornado of the century. I mean, this one has to be absolutely devastating because the amount of tornadoes that happen in America every year, there's just so many of them. You know, like especially the F3s and the F4s, there's just so many. So to be the worst one of the last 100 years, this one has got to be like, I mean, we're probably talking like, well, it's got to be F5 at least, right?
1974. Radars pick up bizarre anomalies.
Storm is severe, massive storm.
Then suddenly, Ohio, Alabama.
This is an emergency. This is a disaster. We have never had nothing like this in my lifetime.
140 tornadoes ignite at impossible speed, and the U.S. isn't ready at all.
Cut a swath, maybe 3 city blocks wide.
Son-in-law and the baby were in the morgue, but they can't find my daughter. We haven't found her body.
What happens next will change the country forever.
Wow.
Once every 40 to 50 years, all the complex meteorological conditions for a widespread, long-lasting tornado outbreak come together in a compact time frame. The resulting weather event is called a super outbreak. America has witnessed several of these outbreaks, once in 1925, then in 1965. However, none of these could prepare the country for the 1974 super outbreak.
It was just a big roar, and I don't know. It was just terrible.
The first warning signs appeared on April 1st. A powerful spring storm began forming over the North American plains, pushing toward the Mississippi and Ohio valleys. A violent collision of warm and cold air strengthened the system, setting the stage for an outbreak that would soon shake the South and the Ohio Valley. For the next 2 days, several tornadoes, some rated F2 and F3, ravaged the area.
Okay, so F2 and F3, so they weren't too bad, these tornadoes so far.
Towns in Kentucky, Alabama, and Tennessee taking the hardest hit. The small town of Campbellsburg, Kentucky, was also almost wiped out by an F3 tornado. What? Forecasters at the National Weather Service knew more bad weather was coming by April 3rd, but no one expected how extreme it would get. Alan Pearson, the director of the National Severe Storms Forecast Center in Kansas City, sensed that this day would be difficult and sent a warning message to the offices of the National Meteorological Services in the eastern half of the country so they would be prepared for another blow. April 3rd, 1974.
Okay.
Over Kansas, the center of the storm was getting stronger, winds were picking up fast, and states like Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama were already seeing gusts close to 60 miles per hour.
60 miles an hour.
11:30 a.m. The National Severe Storms Forecast Center issued its first severe weather watch for parts of the upper Midwest and Ohio Valley. The atmosphere was explosive, and soon after, that thunderstorm cluster from Arkansas began racing toward Tennessee and Ohio,
Oh my God.
moving almost 70 miles per hour. It became the first of 3 major storm lines that would unleash tornadoes across the country. And then it began.
Put the warning out again. Persons in treated courts and mobile
Everybody's
homes
panicking.
elsewhere are urged to evacuate and get to a place of safety.
One after another, tornadoes began to explode across Indiana, but the one that hit nearly an hour later was something no one could have imagined.
God, the anticipation, like the tension is just so, it's just building and building and building.
2:16 p.m. Tornado touched down just south of Huffman, moving northeast. Almost immediately, it destroyed a mobile home, claiming its first life. This was the first in a chain of 5 violent tornadoes, spawned by a single supercell, tearing its way from southern Indiana into northern Kentucky and then southwestern Ohio. A short while later, the tornado reached Branchville. 2 people jumped out of the bus and lay in a ditch, but the storm lifted the bus 50 feet into the air and threw it right at them. One of them was lucky to survive. The other died. But the storm kept on its deadly trail, intensifying to an F5.
Wow, look how big it is. Look how big and moody it looks.
And widening to a whole mile as it moved into Crawford County. The scenes there were of total chaos. with the wind sweeping many rural farms.
My God.
It finally struck the southeastern parts of DePaul, claiming yet another life.
Jesus.
But despite its intensity, residents couldn't see a visible funnel, only violent wind shredding everything in their path. This is why Gene Hornsby didn't think much of the storm when he saw the thick clouds.
Finally got worse, so we headed around the house and got under the house there. Got in this corner right over here, and
He was standing outside his house with his wife, but when the tornado moved closer, he knew the winds were unlike anything he had ever seen. He and his wife managed to hide in the basement when the tornado ripped the house off its foundation. They thought it was the end, but miraculously, they both escaped unharmed.
I thought we were coming up with it, but we were lucky enough to get by without any injuries.
By the time the tornado reached Martinsburg, the devastation was unimaginable. Out of 48 homes, 38 were gone.
Wow.
Newspapers later said the town, for all practical purposes, is no longer there.
Oh my God.
From there, the storm continued east, flattening more homes in Daisy Hill before finally losing strength near New Liberty around 3:25 p.m.
Well, Ken, the tornado hit at mid-afternoon prior to the storm, which moved through the Louisville area. The tornado cut a path at least a mile wide from the area of DePaul through Palmyra, then into the Borden and Martinsburg areas. Indiana State Police say the town of Martinsburg was wiped out. 37 homes in the Daisy Hill section of Borden were leveled, killing one person, injuring 41 others.
In just over an hour, the deadly tornado had carved a 62-mile path of devastation, claiming 6 lives across Indiana. It seemed that the worst was behind us. A new nightmare was brewing on the horizon.
Wow, just when they think, oh, it's calmed down, it's over. Nope. It's just starting.
30 miles to the south, another giant whirlwind was forming and was about to touch the ground. 3:30 p.m. A violent tornado touched down in Breckinridge County, grazing the northern edge of Hardinsburg, Kentucky with F3 intensity. But things took a drastic turn when the tornado crossed into Meade County, passing the town of Invington to the north. By this time, the twister had turned into an F4 monster, sweeping away homes and hurling vehicles hundreds of yards into the air. And then, it got worse. When the tornado reached Brandenburg, it exploded into full F5 intensity, and the destruction became unimaginable. The winds didn't just destroy homes, it erased them completely. Even strong brick buildings were reduced to rubble.
We had a tornado. That would be the understatement of the year.
Wow, that
oh
picture
my
there.
goodness, it just popped and cracked just like 100,000 tons of bombs dropped. The wind was blowing everywhere in the world so strong you couldn't tell what all was going on.
But the most destruction occurred along Green Street, where 18 people were killed instantly as the tornado tore through with unimaginable force.
Oh my
and
God.
I heard a roaring noise, and I saw what I thought to be smoke and stuff coming up over the hill, but it was a black cloud or wind, dirt, and everything coming up over the hill. And my little grandson asked me what it was, and I told him I thought it sounded like a train, but I knew it wasn't. And it just hit, and that's it.
After ravaging Brandenburg, the tornado finally dissipated across the river in Indiana at 4:22 p.m.
It's almost cruel that, like, you know, just as they are destroying stuff, they're gone. You know, the tornado's gone and all it leaves is the destruction and the people that have been, like, lost. It's just like, you can't, like, blame it because it's not there anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've not got something to, like, point your finger at and be like, why did you do this? Because it's gone.
But in the 52 minutes it spent on the ground, the tornado destroyed countless homes and claimed 31 lives.
Wow.
This was one of the strongest tornadoes of the entire outbreak, and the only one to have officially produced F5 damage in the state of Kentucky.
What are the levels? I mean, like, so what does a tornado need to do to reach F5 status? Is it the speed? Is it the width of the tornado? How long it goes on for? How much damage is done by it?
By 4 p.m., it became apparent that the superflash was out of control, the monster preparing to show its full fury. The map was literally seething with new storms. Dozens of supercells were exploding across the map, each one capable of producing a violent tornado. In Indiana, there were so many dangerous storms that officials did something almost unheard of. They put the entire state under a tornado warning at the same time.
The whole state.
Tornadoes were spreading in every direction. They were pushing south into Tennessee, tearing through the rest of Kentucky, and surging north into eastern Indiana. It was like the whole region was under siege. 4:30 p.m., a tornado touched down near Bellbrook, Ohio, and nothing about it seemed unusual at first. It started as a moderate tornado, but while racing northeast at 50 miles per hour, it began to swell and intensify.
This storm is severe, a massive storm. The track indicated by the hook in our radar screen is now moving into the city of Xenia. Persons in the city of Xenia and along the track just south of it, Arrowhead, Xenia, Central State, should take cover immediately.
As the storm approached Xenia, it grew even larger, spinning in a brutal multi-vortex structure. And when it reached the western side of town, the wind slammed with full F5 power, leaving nothing standing. Rows of brick homes were swept away, so...
Wow, look at this. This is like an entire town flattened. Like, this is like 50 homes we're looking at, all destroyed. This is insane. I've never seen anything like this.
Completely, that in some places, there was almost nothing left. Windsor Park and Arrowhead were simply wiped off the map. But the worst was far from over.
What?
10 minutes after touchdown, the tornado reached central Xenia. Apartment complexes, houses, businesses, churches, everything was destroyed in minutes. Maureen Clark was rehearsing for a play inside Xenia High School with her theater group when one of her friends rushed inside.
She and her mom were in the car coming home from errands, stopped to come in to tell us that it was right there coming.
She warned that a tornado was coming, and Maureen and her friends looked out the window, and a huge tornado was already spitting right across the street. In an instant, the building was filled with a roar, like a train. They managed to run into the hallway, and within seconds, the tornado had passed through the school, leaving no chance for those who were late to take cover.
We were pushed together like an accordion, and it just lifted us a little bit off the floor, and we were all just kind of scrunched together and then dropped back down to the floor.
It was definitely their lucky day, as a school bus was thrown onto the stage exactly where they had been practicing moments earlier.
Wow.
All of the students survived, but the school building took an irreparable hit. As the tornado tore through the heart of Xenia, its power became almost unreal. It slammed into a passing Penn Central freight train and flipped several railroad cars off the tracks, tossing them aside like toys. But the devastation didn't end there. The tornado pushed straight through Xenia's downtown, damaging countless businesses.
It was just a big roar, and I don't know. It was just terrible.
My daughter and her husband and baby were at a root beer stand, and it was blown down, and they found, it took me 24 hours to find it, but my son-in-law and the baby were in the morgue, but they can't find my daughter. We haven't found her body or anything about her.
Look at this. This is even worse than the other town that we looked at. Like, these houses are legitimately flattened. Like, these are completely flat.
From downtown, the tornado roared into Wilberforce, heavily damaging campus buildings and homes at Wilberforce University. Even the Central State University was hit and suffered major structural damage. After leaving more than 30 miles of devastation behind, the tornado finally dissipated near South Vienna in Clark County. And even though it stayed on the ground for just 39 minutes, it claimed more lives than the F5 that destroyed Brandenburg. The residents of Xenia couldn't believe their fate. 34 people were lost to the winds, and more than 1,000 were left injured.
Oh my God. So we're probably at like 70 fatalities now. This is unreal. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a tornado video where the numbers are this high. I've never seen it before.
The Xenia tornado turned out to be the deadliest tornado of the entire super outbreak. Xenia was so devastated that Dr. Fujita first labeled it F6+1.
F6.
Not just any scientist, the undisputed GOAT of tornado research. But why would a precise scientist use a category that shouldn't even exist? Fujita had spent decades studying tornadoes by examining the scars they left behind. Over 20 years, he developed a new way to classify them, the F scale, ranging from light F1 damage to the catastrophic F5. But many critics dismissed his method as strange, even scientific. Then came Xenia. The destruction was unlike anything he had documented. The tornado's multi-vortex structure carved patterns that didn't fit any known category. Even Fujita couldn't immediately call it an F5. For days, he worked among the ruins, mapping debris and reconstructing the tornado's path. His first estimate? F6. But after reviewing aerial photos in past cases, he withdrew it, saying F6 should remain theoretical. Xenia's destruction, while extreme...
Dude, it looks like that place got hit by a nuke. Like, it's just like the houses are just turned into like just scrap wood. I've never seen like towns flattened like this. I just can't remember when I've seen towns flattened this badly.
Was officially F5. Afterward, the F scale finally gained full recognition, becoming the standard for measuring tornado damage. But the day was far from over. Most storms cause moderate damage, but one small tornado suddenly becomes an extremely dangerous threat. The tornado touched down at 4:28 p.m., north of the city of Rising Sun near the Ohio River. At first, its damage was comparable to an F4, which was already powerful enough to level homes. But when it crossed the Ohio River a second time, everything changed. Winds picked up significantly, pushing the storm into the F5 zone as it slammed into Sailor Park, Cincinnati. The tornado hit Moorhead Pier and in a matter of seconds turned the shore into chaos. At that moment, 27-year-old Margaret Martin noticed softball-sized hail outside her window. It was the first sign that something much more terrible was coming to her town.
I can't describe how scary it really is.
A moment later, a dark wall of wind appeared in front of the house. Margaret was sure that this was the end, but a neighbor's scream snapped her out of her stupor. She grabbed her daughter and rushed to the shelter. The tornado passed in seconds, and everything behind it turned to rubble.
We heard a couple windows break and we thought, oh, we're okay. And then when we went out and walked outside, we couldn't believe what we saw.
Still moving.
She's so lucky, isn't she? She is so lucky.
At an intensity of F5, the twister tore deeper into Sailor Park, and the destruction here was absolute. A hilly neighborhood near a lake experienced the most damage. Entire rows of homes were swept completely off their foundations, leaving nothing behind but clean, empty slabs. The tornado finally began to weaken as it continued northeast, but it was still extremely dangerous. Several neighborhoods in Cincinnati, including Bridgetown, Mack, Dent, and Delhi, were ripped apart in seconds. In just what it felt like the nightmare would never end, the tornado finally lifted west of White Oak, leaving behind a deadly 21-mile-long scar. Within the 23 minutes it was on the ground, the winds claimed 3 lives and injured 200 residents.
I can't believe it. So it was on the ground for 23 minutes and it traveled 21 miles. So that's a mile a minute. That's crazy quick.
But don't think that this is over.
There's more.
While thunderstorms tore through Ohio and northern Indiana, something darker was brewing in the south. East of the Mississippi, the storm became a death machine. The tornado originated at 6:20 p.m. as an F3 in Lawrence County, rapidly gaining strength, causing extensive damage in Mount Moriah. Approaching Mouton, the tornado reached F4, leaving behind destroyed homes. As it moved through Morgan County, it gained momentum in preparation for an even bigger impact.
Wow.
After crossing the Tennessee River, the tornado raised a wall of water and crashed into Tanner at its peak strength of F5. There, the winds cut through everything like a blade. The The tornado then moved into Madison County, tearing through Capshaw and Harvest, and remained on the ground for nearly an hour before disappearing northeast of Harvest. But for Tanner, the nightmare wasn't over, because just 30 minutes later, another violent tornado formed along the north bank of the Tennessee River,
relentless.
less than a mile from the path of the first storm. Rescue workers had only just begun searching the debris when a second twister barreled straight into Tanner, destroying what was left. Stronger, more brutal, much deadlier. One man injured at Lawson's trailer park during the first tornado had been taken to a nearby church to receive help. When the second tornado struck, the church collapsed completely.
No way. Oh my God. So he must have been thinking, I'm safe, I'm in a church, I've got away from the tornado. And then he just hears that wind from the outside, like he must have been thinking, not again.
And he was killed. After destroying what little remained of Tanner, the tornado roared across rural Limestone County and into Madison County, hitting Capshaw and Harvest for a second time. The tornado swept across rural Madison County, crossed into Tennessee, and finally broke apart in Coffee County. More than 1,200 houses and vehicles were completely destroyed or damaged. Together, tornadoes nearly wiped out Tanner and caused more than 45 deaths throughout their destruction path.
Jeez.
The tornado touched down at 8:50 p.m. in eastern Mississippi, gaining strength and tearing through Alabama. Near Monterey Trailer Park, it had already grown to an F4. The roar covered everything around, and in seconds, the park turned into complete chaos. Moving toward Guin, the storm finally grew to an F5, a wall that knew no bounds or regret. Its first major target was a mobile home factory in the city of Guin, and when the storm passed,
Leveled. Completely leveled. Look at this. What is this? Did these used to be trailer parks or something? Or buildings? This looks like a bomber's hit.
only an empty slab remained. From there, the tornado swept straight into the center of Guin, tearing everything in its path to pieces. 7-year-old Keith Miller had heard of storm shelters, but never thought he would need one.
Mom just come busting through my room. I still have the image of her face, just the terror in her eyes etched in my mind. And I remember her saying, we've got to go to the storm shelter, we've got to go to the storm shelter.
Mere moments later, the tornado slammed into the shelter.
It's like everyone describes being next to a 747 as it takes off. And I remember my mom putting her hands over my ears like that and being just being shaken real violently.
When the roar finally subsided and he emerged from cover, the city he knew was gone. The destruction was so extreme that an NWS surveyor, Bill Herman, described the 6-block area of Guin as being swept completely clean. Wow. It was the worst damage a tornado could possibly inflict. And sure enough, 23 people lost their lives just in Guin that night. After leaving the town in ruins, the tornado slammed into the small community of Twin at F5 intensity, then tore into Delmar, leaving 5 fatalities in its wake. From there, it widened to nearly a mile across as it tripped through the Bankhead National Forest, flattening ridgetops and deep valleys. The destruction was so immense that the scar it left on the forest was visible even from space. The twister finally lost strength around 10:55 p.m. and lifted south of the tiny community of Basham, ending a violent 79.5-mile path that destroyed over 540 structures. The 1974 super outbreak wasn't just a weather event. It was a turning point in American disaster history. Within just 24 hours, the country faced something it had never seen before. 148 tornadoes across more than 2,500 miles. And what made the outbreak even worse was the intensity of all these tornadoes. Out of 148, 30 F4s and 6 F5s tore entire communities apart, marking the most violent tornadoes ever recorded in a single outbreak.
Unbelievable.
By the time the skies finally cleared, 335 people were gone and more than 6,000 injured.
335 people. That is for sure the highest fatality rate I've ever heard related to tornadoes ever.
As for those who survived, the memories of that day became a dark chapter they would carry for the rest of their lives.
Oh my God.
Cleanup operations got underway early, with thousands of emergency workers and citizens trying to put the town back together.
Billy, what did you see this afternoon when you came over here?
This place was just wrecked.
Is there anything left in some of these?
Well, just whatever people's trying to salvage. There's nothing more than what you see. People escaping, losing half their.
Sounded like a big train. We were right underneath the front of it. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't want to again.
Wow. I've been watching videos about tornadoes for a few years now, and this by far has to be the most shocking one I've seen, because I've never seen a tornado outbreak that has been this destructive, you know, taken this many lives. It is just insane how destructive these tornadoes were. 6 F5s, over 30 F4s, over 2,500 miles of damage. I just cannot believe it. The amount of towns that got leveled, flattened, homes destroyed, buildings destroyed. I've just not seen anything like it. I can't believe this is the first time hearing of this, because truly this, I mean, if this happened today, it would be like front page news for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like, this amount of damage, unheard of for me, unheard of. Like, I can't believe, I'm a little bit speechless here. Just, I can't believe it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and check out the video I'm going to link right here. See you there.